Have you ever asked yourself why, despite saving every extra dollar, cutting down on little pleasures, and living with strict discipline, you still feel like financial freedom is far out of reach, almost like chasing a mirage in the desert? The truth is uncomfortable, but it is exactly what separates the rich from everyone else. Saving alone will never make you rich, because saving is only a defensive strategy in a game that demands offense. And if you spend your life relying only on defense, you will always be protecting what you have rather than multiplying it. Think of it like playing a basketball game where you never attempt a single shot and only guard your basket. Sure, you won't lose points, but you'll never win either. The narrative that many of us are raised with is simple. Study hard, get a job, live frugally, save diligently, and one day those savings will somehow transform into wealth. But this old story ignores a harsh reality that inflation quietly erodes the value of money every single year. That emergencies and medical bills will eat into your savings faster than you expect. That the interest in savings accounts rarely keeps up with rising costs of living. And that by the time you think you've saved enough, life will have already moved far ahead, leaving you stuck in the same cycle of work and restraint. True wealth has never been built on saving alone. If it did, every hard-working person who carefully put away money in a bank account would already be rich. But the streets are not filled with millionaires who lived like misers. They are filled with people who saved and waited, only to realize too late that their money was just sitting still while the wealthy made theirs run marathons. The difference is that the wealthy understand something most people never get taught in school. Money is not meant to sit. It is meant to move, to multiply, to be placed in vehicles that create more streams of cash. And that's why they invest in businesses, stocks, real estate, intellectual property, and opportunities that create growth beyond the limits of their own labor hours. When you save alone, you are trading your time and effort for money and then locking it up. But time is finite and your effort has limits, while wealth is born from leverage. The ability to make money work for you even when you are sleeping, traveling, or not lifting a finger. That's why someone who makes $50,000 a year but invests strategically can surpass someone making $100,000 a year who only saves. Because the investor understands the exponential growth of compounding, while the saver is stuck in the linear grind of stashing cash that only inches forward. Consider the concept of inflation. If inflation averages 3% annually, then saving $10,000 in a bank account earning 0.5% interest actually makes you poorer each year, because your money buys less and less. Meanwhile, someone who put that same $10,000 into assets growing at 8 to 10% annually not only beats inflation, but steadily builds wealth that doubles every few years. The irony is that many people fear risk and cling to saving as a safe choice. But in reality, playing too safe is the biggest risk, because safety guarantees stagnation, while calculated risks open doors to growth. The poor and middle class are trained to protect their money, while the wealthy are trained to multiply it. And this mindset gap explains why the cycle of poverty repeats. Saving is important, yes, but only as a foundation, a safety net, a cushion for emergencies. Beyond that, money needs to be put to work. And here's the secret no one tells you. The rich don't work harder for money. They design systems where money works harder for them. They create income streams that don't depend solely on their presence. Rental income, dividends, royalties, businesses, digital products, or investments in appreciating assets, all of which allow their wealth to snowball while the average saver is still clipping coupons. Imagine two people starting at the same point. One saves $500 every month for 30 years in a savings account, ending up with around $180,000. The other invests the same $500 monthly at a modest 8% return and ends with over $745,000, nearly 4 times more, simply because they understood that growth, not storage, is the path to wealth. The tragedy is that millions of people live their entire lives in the first scenario, thinking discipline alone will carry them to financial freedom, never realizing they were running on a treadmill instead of an open road. The reason saving is celebrated is because it feels tangible, safe, and culturally acceptable. But what really builds wealth often looks scary, misunderstood, and even reckless to those who don't study it. That's why average people mock investors when markets dip, while the wealthy quietly buy more, knowing that the temporary fall is the setup for the next big climb. The wealthy think decades ahead, not weeks ahead. They accept short-term volatility for long-term security, while savers accept short-term comfort for long-term stagnation. And here's something that might shock you. Even your job is designed to keep you saving, not growing. You are encouraged to stash away in retirement accounts that only trickle, while the big players in finance use your money to make aggressive moves that multiply their fortunes. In other words, you are trained to save, while they are trained to invest with the very money you saved. The financial system itself rewards the brave and penalizes the cautious, which is why you see bankers in skyscrapers enjoying profits off the deposits of everyday savers who never learn to shift from safety to strategy. So, what is the solution? It is not abandoning saving altogether. Saving is essential for emergencies, opportunities, and discipline. But it is realizing that saving is just the first step, not the last. The journey to wealth begins only when you take those savings and turn them into capital, putting them into vehicles that grow, diversify, and expand beyond your immediate effort. This is why you'll hear phrases like, "The rich don't save, they invest." Not because they never save, but because they know saving is like planting seeds in a jar, while investing is planting them in the soil where they can grow into forests. The real game of money is about leverage, leveraging knowledge, leveraging networks, leveraging assets, and leveraging time. If you only save, you are choosing to play the game on easy mode. But easy mode never leads to extraordinary results, and extraordinary wealth demands extraordinary strategy. Think about this. Every wealthy individual you admire didn't just save their way there. They built, they invested, they multiplied. From entrepreneurs who reinvested profits into scaling businesses, to investors who reinvested dividends into compounding portfolios, to creators who turned one idea into streams of royalty income. They all understood that saving is just storing energy, while investing is converting energy into power. So the next time you hear someone tell you to just save and wait, remember that saving alone is like filling a bucket with water while the bottom has a small leak. It feels secure for a while, but slowly drains away unless you build systems that refill and expand it faster than it leaks. The path to real wealth is not about hiding your money in the dark, but about letting it breathe, flow, and expand into opportunities that align with your vision. That's why the middle class often looks back at retirement age with regret, realizing they played it too safe, while the wealthy step into retirement earlier and freer because they dared to put their money to work decades earlier. At the end of the day, the uncomfortable truth is this: saving alone will keep you afloat, but it will never make you sail. And if you want to live not just with security, but with freedom, influence, and choice, then you must learn to use saving as the foundation and investing as the engine, because in the game of wealth, defense can protect you, but only offense can win the championship.